All right, in this question number 4, I'm asking you to look and see about those two different reference angles and how we could set up two different equations to solve for x. So once again, to start trig test, you guys want to write that acronym to help us remember the sine, cosine, and tangent when they are valid until you have it memorized. So if I'm trying to find the value of x, there are two reference angles to choose. I could use this 25-degree angle, or I could use this 65-degree angle. Because the question's asking us to write two separate expressions, what I want you guys to know how to do is to solve for x using the 25-degree reference angle and also using the 65-degree reference angle. So when I look at this question, if I'm using this as the reference angle, let's determine what the opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent are. So here's my right angle. Across from that is always the hypotenuse. That never changes. If this is my reference angle, then across from that is the opposite, and then next to it is adjacent. So now I've labeled hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent, and if I'm using the 25 degrees as my reference angle. So if I'm trying to solve for x, I don't know this side, so I can't use that. I can use the 11 though. So if I'm trying to solve for x, that's adjacent and hypotenuse. And if I'm using those two, I look up here, that would be cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that means the cosine of 25 degrees is equal to the adjacent, which is x, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 11. So that's one of the two expressions that can be used. Notice this question is not asking you to solve it. It's just saying write the two expressions. So we're halfway done. If we want to use the other angle, the 65-degree angle, we need to change the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse to make it fit. So the hypotenuse always stays the same, so we'll just change those. If I'm using 65 degrees as the reference angle, this is now the opposite, and this is now the adjacent, because this is opposite of that angle. Okay, so if I'm doing that and I want to solve for x using 65 degrees, now I'm doing opposite and hypotenuse, which is this first trig function sine. So that would mean I would do the sine of 65 degrees is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Notice that both of these are the exact same question, solving the exact same thing, and that cosine of 25 degrees and sine of 65 degrees are the same thing because those two angles add up to 90 degrees.